people are not aware of the legal ramifications and the legal mechanisms that are there. So they assume that because the child is 14 and they have a social security card, then that means that they can do any kind of work.
Culturally, a child may mean someone who has not yet reached puberty or leaves home or even begins to work. But according to the Convention on the Rights of a child is defined as any person who is under the age of 18. Making up about 42% of the Belizean population, they are a great resource, but a large number of that population is victim to child labor, particularly in the agricultural industries. Under the laws of Belize, a child can legally work from the age of 14.
This was an issue affecting children across the country, and they identified certain industries that were vulnerable, and the sugarcane industry was one of the industries that were vulnerable. The citrus industry and banana industry were also identified. So this project is actually a part of a larger project, the accompanying measures for a sugar program. The government of Belize has received funding from the EU to improve conditions in the sugarcane industry and specifically to address poverty in the northern part of Belize.
A 2013 child activity survey by the Statistical Institute of Belize, released back in 2015, revealed that 7 in every 10 children who are working do not go to school, and most have only a primary school education. That the larger the household is, the more likely the children will be working. While not every child who is employed is involved in child labor, 68% of working children are doing child labor.
The children employment rate has gone down since 2001 by about a half. Only, 4.7% of children are employed, when in 2001, about 9% of children were employed. And the same is true for children in child labor as well. So it is very important that we recognize that there has been progress in reducing the number of children who are working and the number of children who are in child labor. Nothing is wrong with children being employed if they're employed under the right conditions. They're not exposed to harm and their development is not being adversely affected, because children need to do some work in order to learn responsibility. I think that parents on a whole, if they knew that they were exposing their children to danger, they wouldn't.
Employment should not interfere with school attendance. That's one of the key guidance notes. So if a child is required to work during a time that they should be in school, that is child labor. Employment should not be hazardous to children, that it will cause injury to their physical development. It should not be compromising their morals or their spiritual development. That's also important guidance. So activities that will require children to be involved in things that adults are engaged in, that will expose them to sexual activity, those kinds of things are absolutely prohibited. That's some of the worst forms of child labor.
Today, public and private sector stakeholders took part in the first of many consultations at the IT Vet compound in Belize City, where an established list of hazardous work and light work will help guide employment practices for organizations as it relates to minors. But certain realities in Belize are that traditionally, a child working in the household is a rite of passage.
One of the big factors that influence child labor is poverty. Parents are in difficult economic situations, and it may be a temporary crisis. A parent has lost a job, or a parent has become suddenly very ill and is not able to work, and there are no other adults in the home to provide for the child. We have family-owned operations, and part of what parents want to do is that they want to pass on skills that they know about how to manage the farm and how to take care of the crops to their children. So they want to introduce those skills to children because it's a part of the sustainability, and it's good for them to do that. But you have to be careful.
Article 19 of the CRC recognizes the right of children to be protected from injury, abuse, neglect, maltreatment, or exploitation. It is further supported by Article 32, which lobbies for the protection of children from economic exploitation, performing work that is likely to be hazardous or to interfere with education or harmful to the child's health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, or social development. The National Committee for Family and Children in Belize ensures that the rights of children under the amended legislation are maintained.
I'm here today with the CDF, the Child Foundation, to look at child labor, to look at what is a hazardous list, and to particularly look at the amendment of the legislation, particularly that of the Child Labor Act. As you know, we recently launched the Children's Agenda, and the agenda is for children and adolescents. And our vision is that by 2030, Belize should be the best place in the world for children to live.
According to the International Labour Organization Convention 138, the national policy is to ensure the abolition of child labour and to progressively raise the minimum age of work to a level consistent with the fullest physical and mental development of young persons. Shaw says that there is a move by government to increase the minimum age to work to 16 in an effort to reduce child labour. Duane, Moody for News 5.